welcome to episode 1 of Under the Sun. We're your hosts,
Tyree,
Claire,
and Taylor.
Now, before we get into today's episode, we just want to put a warning that this book, Copper Sun, and today's episode contain and will be talking about sexual assault, rape, so please be advised before continuing. And in today's episodes, we'll be covering the first 10 chapters of Copper Sun by Sharon Draper.
Draper is a 3-time over New York Times best-selling author. She has also received a Coretta Scott King Award for multiple of her books, including today's topic, Copper Sun.
the book starts off introducing the audience to the main character Amari and family in the village when everything comes crashing down and there are many people who get killed and they survive, or the ones who survive are sold to be into slavery.
So let's move on to the questions. Claire?
If you were a villager, how would you feel about an arranged marriage?
You forgot the last one now.
For yourself.
Do you want to go first, Terry?
Well, personally, if I was a villager, it would really depend, because I know some of us, just being, well, in my perspective as a mature teenage boy, if I'm getting an arranged marriage to somebody who's hot, of course, me being me, hell, I'm all for it. But, some people, even if they were hot, they could have had that one person growing up or childhood friend that they're really in love with, but they're kind of forced to be in a relationship because of an arranged marriage, and I know some people just dislike those in general. So, if I were a villager, I'd be 50-50 on it. How about you, Claire?
Honestly, I wouldn't really be feeling that because, I don't know, I just like to choose what I do. I like to have control over it and stuff. What about you?
With me, I wouldn't say I'm super feminist, but I am feminist. And I'd say just we got rid of the arranged marriage and arranged marriages for most people years ago. Nowadays, it's just a culture thing, depending on the culture, and I would not be down, as me and parents have two different views.
Alright, and how would you feel if strange men who you welcomed in attack and then sold you into slavery?
That'd be very uncool. Very uncool.
Yeah, I don't know.
I open my home to you, and you just take over. Get out, dude. Not it.
I know it would probably be a very traumatizing experience for,
That
the
too.
people going through it, because they're not really used to all this destruction and such, and it didn't seem they were prepared for a fight. It seems like they're probably at least prepared for some fights, but these strange white men came in with gifts under false pretenses. They welcomed the in, they thought it was all friendship and stuff, and the next thing you know, they're killing off your families, and sometimes they killed off a lot of the men. I know most of the women were captured, but usually if you were a certain age man, you would be killed. And it's just really just natural selection process, because I understand that being betrayed in this sort of situation is just it's just really traumatizing, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, because of course, back to the killing the older people off. They want the younger people to make sure they're gonna live long enough to make that pay off how much they spent.
Yeah.
You make a purchase and you're like, okay, I have to use this many times before it's basically free.
Yeah. And how would you feel about being confined with people you do not know in an unfamiliar place? I don't know, I would feel dirty about that and just weird because I just don't know these people.
That's how I feel every time I walk into an average school classroom.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honestly, me being me, some of us are kind of this isn't a choice, by the way, since they're all being confined with it. This is not a choice, so it's not I'm socially anxious, I'm gonna choose who I want to walk to. You don't have a choice whether or not who you talk to. Technically, they don't even care whether you talk or not, nor do they care about your well-being. So it's just you look around, you're are these people dangerous? Will they hurt me? People get real crazy when they're locked up, low on food. They'll do some crazy stuff, and it's kind of scary because the ages, they're separated by gender, because you have the women and then the men. And for the women's side, they had rooms to be in, but they're still surrounded by strangers and still trying to figure out, hey, what should I do? Some of these people don't even speak the same language as me, so most of them keep it to themselves. And for the men, they don't really get that stuff, and they're kind of just working all day long. So it really depends on what side you're on in this situation. So
With me, I mean, every day I just go with the flow of things. I just ignore most people. But to be combined with like you, if you want to talk, you can only talk with these people, and like you're trapped. Someone's gonna pee on your foot or something. That's gonna be gross. You're gonna want out. I'd rather not.
Yeah. And if you were in Amari's place,
That's me.
that's you.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
If you were in Amari's place, what would be your game plan for survival?
all right, let's see. Now, it depends on which part it's talking about,
I think
but
this
just
would be
in
the
general,
bow.
just like from the start in general that we have these questions through. If I was in her place, my game plan would be for survival. Actually, yeah, I'm in Marty's place, so never mind. I gotta speak from a woman's perspective. You know, mostly I have to try to keep to myself, just obey commands. There's not much you can really do to prepare to survive during that. So it's really just like, oh, this was suddenly blasted on me. You gotta learn to adapt in that situation. And, you know, some of us don't wanna die and they wanna live. So instantly your head is just like, you gotta adapt or you're gonna be left behind.
Yeah. I feel like I would just kind of try my best to play along, but it's just really hard. Like,
Right.
from her perspective.
You just have to go with what people tell you, follow the directions, because if you don't, you could be dead. But you also have to think Amari's 15 and now without her mother. There are so many changes that like her young body and all that goes through, and now she's basically by herself. You'd be lost. How would you react to strange men telling you to dance with while wearing very little clothing?
I would be like, nah, I'm good. That'd just feel weird.
That'd be like a quick kick to the nuts.
Yeah.
You know, if you knew the reason behind it, I guess it would kind of differ. But you know, I know it's personally me, I'd be shocked. But at the same time, they're whipping people if you're not moving. So best believe I'm hitting that Mexican African jig however I can, foot stomping, left foot right foot touch. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get whooped no matter the situation. In my head, I'm like, what am I doing this for? This is kind of strange and I'm embarrassed. But at the end of the day, it's for survival, so you can't really question it. Because if you take time to question it, even precious seconds get lash on the wrist, lash somewhere. It's gonna hurt.
How would you feel being told that you will be raped?
I don't know, I'd probably puke. That's kind of gross.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of that, so.
Like most people, when you're told something before it happens, of course in your head you're automatically just gonna have a lot of anxiety going, and you're just like, I'm going to get raped. There is nothing I can do about this. And it's kind of like when you get a punishment and someone says they're gonna whoop you, but they'll be like, give me a moment. And you're just dreading and waiting for that moment to happen because you know it's gonna happen regardless. It's just like, how can you mentally prepare yourself for something like as bad as this? Because rape, most people don't really have like preparing yourself for that since it's never happened to most people. And to some people, you know, you just can't really prepare for it. And when it does happen, you're just like, it's nothing like how it was in my head. It's usually 10 times worse.
Right.
But the wait is always worse than the results because anticipation and anxiety for most people.
Now, tying into a little bit of what you said, you also don't know when, where, or who you'll be raped by or whatnot, and that's just like extremely scary. And to think that like you're getting your innocence taken away by people you don't know, somewhere you don't know, wow, that's scary. Like the trauma that would cause would be very significant. I don't know how I would personally go on after that trauma, that's for sure.
Yeah, understandable. Next question. After being raped multiple times by multiple men, what would be your way to cope with the physical pain or / mental pain after all of this has happened?
Just to understand that it like wasn't my fault. It's just because they were weird and like stupid.
Yes, that is a big thing in society today. when it comes to rape victims, a lot of the times people in their heads like to think, oh, I did something wrong, this is my fault. No, in
And
this
that they're
instance,
not the victim.
you were captured and they forced themselves onto you. Nothing that happened is your fault. I just want to say that to anybody, if you are any victims of rape, it's never your fault. It truly is the person who did it to you, because you know, we lived in a messed up world, and you know, the world they lived in, as some of my ancestors, you know, kind of looking at this is just like, wow, the mental like fortitude they have to have, and the tolerance for the physical pain, because I know these guys are not treating them nicely. This isn't a, oh yeah, let's do this. This is a, you will either do it or I will beat you situation.
Right.
And until they reach like the next land, this will go on for multiple nights, and it's gonna happen multiple times and with multiple people. And that requires a whole bunch of mental fortitude, because I know sometimes people just like, they try to empty themselves and push off all emotion, and then after this is over, you know, sometimes they get really messed up. It sucks, but this is the world we live in sometimes.
See, on to the whole, most people blame themselves for the situation, that it's their fault. They're not pretty, or they're not perfect anymore, and they're just like a piece of trash at that point. It'd be so hard to not want to like throw yourself overboard.
Yeah. You have anything to say about that, Claire? All right. Now, how would you feel after being given food, clothing, and an explanation on what's to come and where you are?
After all that trauma that like we've gone through, and then being given kindness and being told what's going on, where you're going, that would be so like reassuring, but also scary. Like,
Yeah.
I just was tortured for the last couple months, and now I'm being given kindness and being told I'm gonna be tortured some more.
Yeah.
But it's
That's kind of a bummer.
not gonna be like as bad as what you endured, but it's still gonna be bad.
I know in my situation, I'd be like, yo, why is it all of a sudden they're treating me nicely, giving me food? I know my anxiety would be off the
Right,
rails,
you'd
because
be
I'm like,
suspicious.
something's going to happen, because they're making sure I'm in good shape. I look like I'm in good health, and they're telling me, hey, this is about to happen to you. But I mean, you have to look on the bright side. At least some of the stuff that happened previously will temporarily stop, but at the same time, now you're going to another land. You have no idea what's about to happen to you, because anything can happen. Mind you, some of them barely speak English as it is. So you don't really have that many people to talk to about this, and you're really on your own most of the time. And I know that sucks. So like I said, the people who are making it through this are real ones. Now, to our listeners, this is our last question. What are your guys' theory, or what will happen next in the next 10 chapters? Like, will she, you know, get freedom, such, have on? Like, what's on your mind?
Will she get bought? Who will she get bought by? Will she survive? That's all for today's episode of Under the Sun. Make sure to join in next time, where we'll be covering chapters 11 to 21 of Copper Sun.
We're your hosts, Tyree
Claire.
And Taylor. And have a great day.
and see you next time.